Welcome, everyone. I'm very pleased to have you here today with my very good friend and colleague, he is a doctor, Father Jon Hedges, and to me is a doctor of the soul. So um, I want to just let everyone know that the Santa Barbara Response Network, of which Father Jon has been a member since its inception, is here for you. We offer support. You can call our number, which is on the Facebook feed, but also it's 699-5608. That's 805-699-5608. Our website is sbresponsenetwork.org. And also we have recordings like the one today in English and Spanish on the Santa Barbara Response Network YouTube channel. And we've been providing these conversations with our community partners, leaders, responders, to communicate with our community at large about what's available, what we can do to support each other during COVID, how can we get support, and know that we are part of a larger community in spirit, in soul, in our extended network throughout our county is here to support you. So thank you for tuning in. And I want to just introduce my friend, Father Jon. On a personal note, we've been responding to many traumatic incidents in our community, and our first experience together was in Isla Vista when we had the shootings, and Father Jon's been working with the Isla Vista Foot Patrol. He's been a chaplain with the Santa Barbara Sheriffs. He's been working, and I think one of the co-founders of Doctors Without Walls, which has been supporting and encouraging our homeless community. And Father Jon responds throughout the country and has been to so many of our very, I think, traumatic, natural and man-made disasters throughout my history of knowing Father Jon. So I've been wanting to have him on to talk about not just what we're doing to support each other, but primarily what's happening with our first responders, the people that are really on those front lines. And it's been in my mind for a while to have this conversation about what is going on, not just in our community, but around the country, with those that are helping so many in distress. So thank you, Father Jon, for being on today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And what I think I'll just start with, you and I have had a couple of conversations, and I thought them very illuminating as to the pulse of what you're picking up is going on in the country, but also Santa Barbara. What's happening? Well, how are our first responders? How are they feeling? And do you think they feel supported? What are some of the issues that you're seeing currently?
There's a lot of uncertainty, I think would be the safest thing that I could say. Who we are, who we see ourselves as, has been tested, not just by the adversity of trauma, but by the challenge of confusing politics and confusing social forces and so many things. In literature, we may have a mystery wrapped in an enigma, but here we have a disaster, a trauma, a pandemic, all the social upheaval that we have, all intertwined in at the very same moment with all of us as participants. And fundamentally, it is disorienting. And one must be somehow oriented in the middle of it for the sake of us all.
That's so well put, because I think so many people who go into being into first responding or even into the military, my son's a responder, and there's a certainty. You follow a protocol, you have it's pretty, it's concrete. So I like what you're saying, that there's now this whole uncertainty that's been thrown into the mix, and how prepared are we for that, and how prepared are our first responders for that, those gray areas, those uncertainties that have come up, and how does that affect them emotionally, psychologically? That's a big, I'm sure that's a big question right now.
And we have a few too many talking heads. There
Mhm.
are so many voices that have a take of one kind or another on everything that's happening. So many that talk and not so many who are present, witnessing and sharing somehow in the suffering of the moment.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to give a prescription, but not many want to sort of enter into it as Doctors Without Borders talks about témoignage, standing in the middle of the suffering and bearing witness to it, not always able to fix it, doing what you can, and sometimes just standing there in silent witness. And right now, I think silence would serve us all a lot better than all of our talking heads.
Wow, I agree. You know, we've all been trained in psychological first aid. That's really the basis of
Yes.
the Santa Barbara Response Network, and you and
Yes.
I have practiced psychological first aid.
Yes.
And I was speaking about it just the other day, and exactly that's what we do. And
Yeah.
you and I have done together. We bear witness to the suffering of the other. We do not know. We don't have the answers.
Yeah.
We converse with the person. We find out what ails thee, what is hurting you, not what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And let's give the time to listen. And I want to talk with you about, how do we listen to those who are on the front lines? How can we offer them that silent witness? How can we offer that to them? And I really want to think about that, and how I can, and our network can, reach out more to our responding community, responders, and their families.
Yeah. We have a culture now, the popular culture, the reality TV culture, makes us want to follow our passions all the time and sort of respond to whatever pops into our mouth. And unfortunately, that does not serve us well in the moment of crisis and trauma. How can we calm our hearts and silence our mouths until a moment really presents itself that is appropriate? We were given mouths to speak. That's not, don't get me wrong. I'm not a Trappist. I'm a Greek Orthodox priest. But God love Trappists. But we are given our mouths to speak, but at the right time. In order for us to get to that right time, we have to first of all use our ears and our hearts. We have to be intuitive, sensitive, mindful, calm in that moment, in order to be responsive in an efficacious way, not just responsive in a way that keeps the conversation going. And that's the hard bit, especially those of us that have a modicum of training of some kind or another. We have so much data, so many theories, so many treatment modalities that go bang, 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 bang all the time. And that's not the first aid in the moment, any more than if a pulmonologist responds to in a first aid situation and has to give CPR, or if a cardiologist responds into it, you know, they are not going to do their respective surgeries and long-term care in that moment. They are going to do the first aid thing. That's why I so loved when I first saw Dr. Gil Reyes doing PFA. You know, here you have this man who's at the top of his game on crisis and trauma, and he has this thing that can be done by someone with a grade school education that is more efficacious than anything in that moment. How do we get in that moment calm and humble? That's the tough bit.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's what we've been, you know, together, you and I, with the Response Network, to be in that moment, to just allow that person to go through what's happening to them in that moment.
Yeah.
It's so important, and there's so few opportunities. Everybody's fixing everything. We're trying to fix everything. And we've just got to be with people, and allow that space for them to recover. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And when a reporter sticks his or her microphone into your face and expects some pontification about the situation, and in New Orleans after Katrina and the days after that, I had so many reporters that came up to me and said, well, what's your take on this? How's President Bush doing? You know, how's the governor of Louisiana doing? You know, and I, in my way, didn't engage those conversations. In the aftermath of the Prescott Yarnell fire, when the 19 hotshots were lost, a reporter in one of the stadiums there said, you know, everyone's looking to you for answers. What do you say to the people? And I said, sometimes all I can say is to cry with them. And the reporter didn't want that. That wasn't what they wanted. But that was what was needed in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think just recently, what you just stated reminded me of the Conception fire response that we were at together. And we just had the 1-year anniversary, Father John, which is why it's fresh in my mind as the families. We have now the memorial in Santa Barbara to those lost, and then the families gathered together and once again went through that. But you were there and you were speaking there, and we allowed that space. And there were literally a few thousand people that came together.
And the thing I was so struck in the aftermath of that first memorial was it was this holy, heavenly kind of place there in the meadow where the whole community was gathered. And when it was over, though we had dealt with pain and trauma and tears, very few wanted to just run off when it was done. They wanted to tarry there. They lingered there for a long time, embracing another. And
absolutely,
just beautiful. That was so lovely.
It was beautiful. I want to just share with people that don't know what happened that here in Santa Barbara, we had a fire that took the lives of 32 people, Father John? Was it something like that?
I believe that was
individuals. Dive boat incident, very tragic fire that we lost many people who were on this dive boat, and from all over the country and the world, actually.
Yes.
And so Father John was involved with the vigil, and we had volunteers there. But just as he stated, I actually have beautiful emails that were sent to us about how people felt being there in a collective experience of grief like that. And you think, oh, why would you want to go? Why do you do this? And the power of community, you know, and how healing that was for so many people. And that's why we're talking, okay, so we have these experiences one after the other right now in this country. And so how do we as a collective provide these spaces for people to heal? And it happens in community. I have to say, it happens in community. And now with COVID, we're having to look, how do we structure that online or with safe distance? But we are a community, and that's how we're going to heal.
If I was to pose an answer, it would be that, first of all, we keep a safe space in our own heart, and we allow that safe space to connect with the safe space in the hearts of others best we can. If we cannot hug, there is a time to embrace and there is a time to refrain from embracing. And one day we will all again embrace, and we will be the better for having kept that love in our hearts and that safe space. And rather than falling to despair because of what we don't have today.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so well put.
I actually learned that from when I read Robinson Crusoe back in grade school. There's a wonderful passage in Robinson Crusoe where he says, I came to look at the bright side of my life and to be grateful for all those things which I had saved from the shipwreck and all those things I found, rather than to mourn over those things that I did not have. And we must mourn, but yet we must also break through somehow to the, in the Orthodox Church at the end of the funeral service, there's a song that's sung, which is very simple. It's just basically memory eternal, memory eternal, memory eternal. May his memory be eternal. And there again, where do we keep that? We keep that in the safe space in our hearts and share it with others. And that cannot be taken from us. That cannot ever. That is eternal.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It reminds me of Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, he's on the
where
wall
he
right over
just
here.
talks about yeah, exactly. It's on all our, it's like, they can't take that away.
Yeah,
They can take everything, but they can't take what's within you. And that's what we hold on to. I was so curious, just on a personal level, how you ended up doing this kind of work that you're doing, and what you think were the influences that prompted you to, or nurtured that.
Well, a long line military family, that's part of it, including grandchildren. No scandal involved. We Orthodox priests can have families. But when I first got to UCSB back in the 60s, in 1969, there was that mudslide in Montecito, right on the same street that the debris flow had come down. And someone came from Montecito and asked a bunch of us to help dig out some of the houses. So I went up there, and for some reason, it was one of the most meaningful and exciting things I'd done to that point in my life. And I had a number of other things that happened. Disasters I responded to before Katrina, but when I got into Katrina, that first 2 weeks of the event, long story how I got there, but anyway, when I stepped out of the police vehicle that I was in onto the streets, I took a deep breath, and it was like, yes, this is what I was born and bred for. And it's not that I'm some sort of an adrenaline junkie. It's just that there are those of us who who can sit with chaos, who can enter into trauma, who can confront the dragon of the fire and, spit him in the face. And it's not bravery or anything like that. I've often said it's a mutation, for crying out loud. I mean, my family certainly thinks it's a mutation, but
Yes.
but on that
I
day,
love it.
I wouldn't be anywhere else than there, because I've been given some tools that I know are first aid tools that are helpful in the moment. I'm not the general. I'm just I'm a EMT in the moment, which I was grateful to be an EMT. Anyway,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
good to be there. It's
You were.
and so many other places, Joplin, and I go down the list, and it's just so many in the last couple decades.
Absolutely. And it's such a great description, because I remember there was a time where I was helping a friend of mine who was a doula or a midwife at
Yeah.
births,
Yeah.
and the power of being in that experience of seeing a birth and a woman giving birth and a baby being born, and I thought, wow. And then I know it's a sort of an odd shift, but when I'm doing the responding, I feel the same power of there is something at work here where I'm sitting with someone going through an incredibly transformative experience. We can call it pain, we can call it trauma, but in the end, it's transformative. It's going to transform that individual's life. And I'm a midwife to that. I'm there and I'm facilitating as best I can that transition. And there's something so I know that you and I share this, is something very real in being with a person at that point when they're so vulnerable and so alone and maybe scared and not knowing, and you're just there with them and saying, it's okay, we're here together right now, and we'll see what we can do. Now it's just, we call it's being real. And that's what sustained me in this work for 12 years and so far, and for you much longer. But it's hard to put it any other way except to be with someone who's going through a huge transition right now in their lives.
And they become our teachers. It is not as if we bring everything into it from some expertise that we might have or might be trying to have. There was an elderly woman in New Orleans who was not going to make it through the day. And as I stood over the cot that she was lying on, I just started crying. And she reached up and patted me on the cheek and said, "Don't cry, Father. There's a better day a-coming." And what do I say to that? What did I bring her? What did she give me that I have carried with me every day since then? And that's, sometimes it is only in the moment of death or the moment of great trauma, injury, that we really see why it is that we're here.
Yeah. Everything falls away.
Yeah.
All that rhetoric, all that, all those answers, everything trying to be clever, it all falls away, and you're just there with that person. And that's all there is at that moment. And you said earlier, which I thought was brilliant, we have to unlearn all these things we've learned in school.
Oh,
A lot of the responders that we have through SBRN, and we have hundreds of them, and I always tell the therapists, you've got to put aside all that stuff that you've learned in graduate school, and often it's harder for them than it is for just that granny off the street or the kid off the block who just wants to be there, and they're able to be there a lot more, be more
And
present.
so many of those things we learned are kind of defense mechanisms anyway,
Yeah,
to enhance
absolutely.
our compartmentalization and our insulation from the pain of our neighbor. And
Yeah.
I believe that unless we're a little cracked ourselves, unless we're a little broken, as so many have said, the light doesn't get in. And
Yeah.
there is a point where this does, quote, get to you, where when you have seen
Yeah.
too much death, when you've seen too much sadness, and there was, especially where there was a sort of a moral sense of outrage because it shouldn't have been the way it was, where it was
Yes.
bad, then
Yes.
your body keeps score. And
Yeah.
so ultimately we have to find a way to resolve that. As you know, as Bessel van der Kolk said, the body keeps score, and as Gabor Mate said, there's a time when the body says no. So somewhere between those two, we've got to find a way to care for that place in our heart that allows us to continue to do this kind of work.
That's so well said. That's so important, because it's so important to stress our own self-preservation, our own self-care, because there is a time where it is too much. And I was sharing with you, I'm taking a week off. What a joy. Okay.
Yeah.
We all have to take that week, that day, that hour, whatever off. Because, like you said, the body keeps score. We're not going
Even
to feel
God
as well
rested.
tomorrow.
Even God
That's
rested
right.
after the creation.
Yeah. We all have to rest. That's
So,
right. And that's part of what this conversation, I mean, we circled back to what we have to say to people who are on the front lines and who are responding, that you have that the important focus to back to self and saying, okay, what am I needing? What am I not feeling right now?
yeah.
Where am I not turning right now? How am I not honoring myself
Yeah.
and caring for myself so that I can continue to do what I'm doing? And as we finish our conversation, I just want to open it up to you to say any closing comments you have, any ideas you'd like to share, anything at all that with our community.
You have to remember to breathe. Remember to breathe, remember to drink water. This is all very, very basic. This is not up here, this is down here. Yeah.
My husband's a military person, and he told me about KISS, K-I-S-S. What the heck is that? He goes, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I try to remember that. Drink water, get rest, eat well.
Yeah.
And keep it very, very simple. And I think that's all we can do right now. I want to remind people that there is community, there is help. I'm also very involved with a lot of suicide prevention efforts. So just so everyone knows that there is help available, and the Santa Barbara Response Network can help you connect to services. And again, it's 805-699-5608, sbresponsenetwork.org. And for all these conversations with these wonderful people like Father John in our community, we're so fortunate to have. Please visit our YouTube channel in English and Spanish to see all of the people that are here for you. And everyone that I've talked to since the beginning of COVID has told me, please call us. If it's domestic violence solutions, if it's calm for our children. I mean, we have a plethora of services. So please do not feel alone. Please do not feel like you can't turn to anyone, and we can connect you to those services. And I want to thank my friend, Father John, for not just his service, but also for his friendship.
Thank you.
And for for being there and for getting it right. I feel like you speak to the heart of what needs to happen for all of us to be present. So thank you, Father John, and have a wonderful evening. And thank you, everybody, for being part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Thank
Father
you.
John.
Thank you. So long.
Thank you. So long.